Okay, I'm Linda Doan, was Linda King for part of the time while I was here, and it's good to be here on this snowy morning. Well, I was coaching before I came to Milligan at what was then Cincinnati Bible College. Remember, this is 1971. I'm older than dirt. And so things were very different in women's athletics. When I was at Cincinnati, I was able to start their volleyball program. They hadn't had it before. And I coached volleyball and basketball and softball and intramural director and taught all of what you did back then if you were in women's athletics. But so we didn't have many accolades as such, but probably some of the most exciting times for us when we actually got to beat Milligan. I'm sure they beat us more than we beat them, but it was fun to come down to Milligan or them to come to us, and those were pretty exciting victories for us. It was just a point in my life when I was ready for a new beginning, and it was just a wonderful opportunity for me, and I knew that I needed a career that would be fulfilling, and I was very happy to be a part of an atmosphere where I could raise two children. So that's kind of why I came to Milligan. Well, of course I was a coach, so winning was always very exciting, and probably the most exciting time was when we won our first district tournament. And we were in Nashville playing, and we got to beat Christian Brothers, who was a big Memphis school, who thought we were just this little guy from East Tennessee. So that was really fun. But as far as memories and good times, I'd have to say it was interacting with the personalities of the players. And some of those early teams especially were really fun. One team, they would do a player of the week, and so they'd all come, it was Barb Wood Day, and they'd all come with two little pigtails on top of their heads, or it was Kim Hogan Day, and they'd all come with cut-off gray sweatpants and knee pads around their ankles and pigeon-toed. And those are just good memories for me, and some of those players are still around here, and we go to lunch together, they come to the farm, and so I guess the fun part is it never ends. You get to still be a part of these kids' lives. Well, the only reason we got Dawn, she was just the best player around, was because I started recruiting her in the 7th grade, and I think she didn't have the heart to tell me no after we'd spent all that time together at Pizza Hut in Gate City, etc. But Dawn was delightful as a player and as a person, and she was a coach's dream. She was an all-around player. She played good defense, good offense. She was good on the court, off the court. If there were struggles on the bench, Dawn was the one to kind of handle them. And she is also the best as a coach. She's good on the court. She's good off the court. She loves her players. She's good to her players. She knows the game. We're very fortunate to have her, and I always tell her, Dawn, you're so much nicer than I was, and she is. She's just great, and fun for me now, because after games and matches and tournaments, we'll go to lunch, and I get to listen to her talk about the highs and lows of coaching. So it's kind of come full circle, which is great for me. Well, what that means to me is I was able to be a part of some wonderful young players' lives. Lori Gibson Mills was our first academic All-American, and I still remember, for some reason, she had a 3.84 GPA on the old 4-point system. And she's now on staff at Milligan and chairs our psychology department, and she does all kinds of wonderful things. And so it's really fun to still be a part of her life. And our first NAIA All-American was Angie Gentry Bratton, who married a Milligan boy. And Angie was the kind of player, she was just wonderful. And I'd go to bed at night thinking of plays that we could run. And with that particular team, I'd come in the next day and we'd try them. And no matter what I asked Angie to do as an offensive player, she could do it. And from a coach's standpoint, that doesn't happen often. And it was just fun to be a part of all that. Well, Pat and I go way back. We are from the same home church in Paynesville, Ohio, and I always admired Pat and respected Pat. And when I was growing up, when she came to Milligan, she would bring Milligan groups to our church, and that was my first real interaction with Milligan, and we'd keep some of the choir people in our home, etc. But Pat's really the reason I came to Milligan. She was the one who kind of wanted me to come and I think talk to people here. And I knew Pat had built a good program ahead of me. Pat was always, I guess when I think of Pat, I think of someone that I respect, and I think of a role model. She was a role model for our young athletes, for our students, for me, and continues to be. Single parent coaching was the hardest thing I've ever done. I remember one weekend we were traveling, and of course we traveled and were gone many weekends, and when we moved here, my kids were 2 and 4. So I remember one of my players saying, "Where are your kids right now?" And I had to look at my watch because they were with the Knowles, Jack and Gracie, for part of the weekend, and they were going to be with Pat and Lee Magnus for another part of the weekend, and probably with the Allens. And if I hadn't had the support of Milligan faculty and Milligan students, I even had a student who lived with us who helped babysit the kids. And if I hadn't had that support, it would have probably been impossible. And it was difficult. But we'd try to do things one tournament a year. We'd kind of make fun, and I'd take the kids. We'd go to the beach, or we'd go somewhere. We went to Washington, D.C. So that was fun, but it was difficult. And to women who were considering coaching as a single parent, I would say trust in the Lord and use your talents and realize that, take one day at a time and realize that God is bigger than your problems, and that God can help you through things. But it is a difficult combination, for sure. Well, thank you for asking, because life is wonderful. I retired a little early from Milligan because I had married this wonderful man who has this wonderful farm. We raise grass-fed beef and cut flowers. And so I now do weddings. We grow flowers and arrange flowers and weddings. And I was thinking, as coming in here, we're doing Stacy Trammell and Jim Dahlman's wedding this summer, Lee Fearbaugh's wedding, Cleo Farr and Aaron Waite's wedding, and Emily Linkus, who's a volleyball player. And we did her sister-in-law's wedding, who's a volleyball player, Jenna Conkin, last summer. And we have kids working at the farm and have, since I retired and before, who are Milligan kids. Katie Kacharis works there and is wonderful. Kristen Waite, whose husband is an Emmanuel graduate, works there, and Aaron Waite is working there this summer. So we're kind of a little Milligan satellite, but such fun for us. And if you would have told me when I was coaching years ago that one day I would be growing and arranging flowers for volleyball players' weddings, I would have said, yeah, right. But it's interesting to see how God works and what life brings, but we have a wonderful life and are still in contact with Milligan kids. So fun for us. Well, it's just really fun. None of the stress of deciding who starts tonight or giving an exam or something like that. It's just fun to come back. And now it's fun to come back and see players and students and the next generation with their kids and just getting together in a relaxed atmosphere. Milligan is a good place with so many good people involved, and I'm just happy to be a part of it all. Well, it means hard work, it means fun, it means blessings, it means relationships for life. So it's a good thing to be. Well, it's just an honor to be on a list with these talented young Christian athletes. And as I said earlier, it's relationships that keep going for life, and it's just a real honor.